So let's start by digging into exactly why people, not computer programs, are the biggest risk. Because honestly, you can have the best technology in the world, but one single moment of misplaced trust can bring the whole entire system crashing down. And this gets right to the heart of a huge misunderstanding. We tend to think of security as this purely technical problem that we can just solve with more and more sophisticated software. But the reality is, a lot of the most devastating security breaches, they don't happen because a firewall failed. They happen because someone got tricked into just opening the door and letting the bad guys in themselves. Welcome to the world of social engineering. So who are these people exploiting this weakness? The word hacker probably conjures up an image of some malicious criminal in a dark room, right? But their motivations are way more complex and varied than that simple stereotype.
Let's just look at two famous examples that could not be more different. First up, you have Gary McKinnon. US prosecutors called his work the biggest military computer hack of all time. And his motive? He was looking for proof of UFOs. Seriously. Then, on the other hand, you have Kevin Mitnick again. His motivation wasn't about money or alien secrets, it was pure intellectual curiosity. He just loved the challenge of solving a puzzle, that thrill of understanding how these complex systems worked from the inside out. Now, according to the US authorities, the consequences of McKinnon's curiosity were absolutely staggering. He was accused of shutting down entire military networks, deleting critical files, and causing over $700,000 in damages. He even allegedly left a message on one military computer that just said, "Your security is crap." So, McKinnon's story is one of technical intrusion, of getting past digital defenses. But like we've been saying, that's only half the picture. What if the most effective way to bypass security doesn't involve a single line of code? This brings us to the real core of hacking the human. It's not about exploiting software bugs. It's about exploiting our own internal programming. Our natural tendency to trust, our desire to be helpful, and yeah, our occasional gullibility. It's truly an art form. Now, what's so interesting about this definition, which comes straight from Mitnick's book, is what's missing. You see that? There's no mention of computers or code or technology at all. It's all about human interaction, influence, persuasion, and straight-up deception. To see this in action, we have to go back, way back to 1978, to a guy named Stanley Rifkin. He pulled off what was then the biggest bank heist in history, and his only weapons were a payphone in the lobby and a really, really confident voice. And the plan was so brilliantly simple. First, he just observed. He was a consultant at the bank, and he noticed that the daily wire transfer code was just posted on a wall for everyone to see. Step 2, he impersonated. He went down to a lobby payphone, called the wire room, and pretended to be an employee. Third, he deceived. He used the code and all the right lingo to sound totally legitimate. And finally, profit. He calmly ordered them to transfer over $10 million. $10.2 million. Just gone. Stolen through a simple abuse of trust. No firewalls were breached, no encryption was broken. The only thing that got hacked was the person on the other end of that phone call. Okay, so we've seen how individuals can be targets, but what happens when these exact same principles of deception and information gathering get scaled up, like way up, and automated by global intelligence agencies? Well, that's when hacking the individual becomes mass surveillance. This is where you get to these really big concepts, like data chaining. So instead of one person trying to get a few key pieces of information, you have machines collecting billions of data points. We're talking phone logs, emails, GPS coordinates, and linking them all together to create this incredibly detailed map of people's lives and all their connections. And the scale here is it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Documents from Edward Snowden revealed that the NSA was collecting something like 2 billion record events every single day, and they had the capacity to expand that to 20 billion. This is the gigantic haystack that intelligence agencies are sifting through, looking for needles. So, the most important point here is this. It's the exact same principle as Stanley Rifkin's bank heist, but it's automated and it's done preemptively. It's not about trying to trick one bank clerk anymore. It's about analyzing the data of entire populations to find suspicious patterns before a crime is even committed. And this ability, this incredible power to map out the communications of millions of people, it brings us face to face with one of the biggest ethical debates of our time. Where do we draw the line between keeping a nation safe and protecting the privacy of individuals?
In his own words, this was at the core of Edward Snowden's argument for leaking all those documents. He basically believed that for any government program to be legitimate, especially one this invasive, the public has to be informed and they have to be willing to consent. Secret programs, well, by their very definition, they lack that consent.
When you boil it all down, the debate is really a clash between two fundamental values. On one side, you have the security norm, which argues that a government has a duty to protect its citizens from harm. But on the other side, you have the privacy norm, which says that we as individuals have a right to be free from intrusion. And these two powerful ideas are in direct conflict.
It forces all of us to ask a really personal question. How much of our own privacy, our own freedom from being watched, are we willing to trade away for the promise of being kept safe? And here's the follow-up, which is maybe the trickiest part of all. How can we, as a society, have a real debate and give our consent to these programs when their very existence, their rules, and their full scope are kept completely secret from us? So in the end, whether we're talking about a multi-million-dollar heist, a massive military hack, or global surveillance, it all comes back to the human element. Technology is going to keep evolving, but the principles of trust, of deception, and persuasion, those are timeless. And that means the strongest security measure we have isn't a piece of software. It's a healthy dose of awareness, a little skepticism, and the understanding that you are the final gatekeeper.